Good evening. Good evening. Great to see so many people here. You know, we can have months go by and not see anybody, and today I feel popular. It's wonderful. Thank you. So we have San Marino and the Long Beach Marina as a public hearing, and the way this is going to work, we have a public hearing. Wait until the presentation is over, then address your questions to me. We'll assume that Sam's team is here and they can hear what you're saying, but I'd prefer you address to me. This keeps things a little more friendly as we go along. And we all do have to live with each other when this is all done. It's good to remember sometimes. I got a what would you call it, a packet, which Victoria is looking at now, from some people who have some questions, and some of them very good questions. I was impressed. I was impressed with the letter, very well put together, and so we'll see that those questions are asked. If you don't ask them, I will ask. I've let the other members of the planning board take a look at this. We had just barely, 15, 20 minutes. So that's great. I mean, that's great you're interested in what's going on in your neighborhood. And I think we can work our way through, and I mean, we're all people who want to see things work out, one way and another. So do you guys want to give your presentation? Tell us what you're going to do.
I'll be the tripod, so the easier, so that we can move it around.
Great.
My name's Evan Jones. I'm with Jones Associates. We put together the application. This is
Could you speak a little louder, please?
This is Mike Gatto. He put together the site design on the project and did all the stormwater engineering. So the Long Beach Marina is a boat storage and sales facility. It consists of a 5,000 square foot sales and service building in the front of the property and a 30,000 square foot boat storage building in the back of the property. The service typically consists of winterizing and shrink wrapping boats, so the boats are brought in at the end of the season, winterized, shrink wrapped and stored, and then taken out at the beginning of the season, and the reverse process is done with those boats. One of the things that's different that the board requested at the last meeting from our application is the hours of operation. We initially anticipated hours of operation between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. 6 days a week. And the board requested we extend that from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. just in case anybody arrived early to work or stayed late. We originally indicated that the 5,000 square foot service building would be built first. Since public notice has gone out on this project, Sam's received a lot of inquiries for boat storage. So the storage building may in fact be built before the front building, just depends on demand. The stormwater runoff for the project, and Michael Flip, actually just go to the other board. So the stormwater is being treated with a pond in the front of the property. That's going through a DP permit process. So all of the water that is on site flows through two swales on either side of the property and down through that wet pond and gets treated. I know there was a concern at the site walk about lighting. What we're proposing is our full cutoff light fixtures, so they direct all light down, and the only lights would be attached to the buildings for the purposes of security. The fire chief has reviewed the project and indicated to the code enforcement officer that he didn't have any concerns. with access or anything like that. There's access is via a 30-foot, wide entrance off from Route 11. And that pretty much covers the site. The surrounding area around the buildings would be gravel, and the down Grant Road here, the tree line would remain the same. Up after this point, the entire project would take place between Grant Road and Bridgeton Road. There would be the distance between the sideline and the gravel area maintains the building setback. So the building is quite a bit further away from a lot further away from the property line than the actual building setback, and any of the gravel area actually maintains that building setback. And with that, I think we could take any questions for the board.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I will refer myself to your letter. I assume that I'm talking to the majority of the people here. So they've stated concerns. Project overview states that Long Beach Marina is proposing new auto, boat sales, and service facility. The building will be heated for winter use and will consist of a small showroom office area with bathrooms and 4 bays. Within these service bays, boats will be winterized, serviced, and shrink wrapped before being stored outside for the winter on large gravel area. Does this mean that the applicant is only applying to service boats and not automobiles? So if you get a clunker that just needs to have its oil changed, what are you going to do?
The purpose of the autos being included is sometimes they take cars in on trade. So that limit would be only up to 8 vehicles for the site.
So are you going to change oil in these cars when they come in? You're going to check the oil, and maybe if there's no oil in this car, that you can put oil in?
They would go to that extent, but it's not going to be like a traditional auto maintenance facility that you would think of in the sense of you could bring your car there to get work done.
No, I get it, but what we're worried about is oil spillage.
Yeah.
You know, oil spillage is the big thing.
Yep.
So we're looking at secondary containment, for instance.
No floor drains.
No floor drain.
No floor drains, all work done on concrete.
Yes.
What about the waste oil from the boats?
Waste oil from the boat, they have a contract that somebody picks up all the waste oil or fluids.
No, but where is it stored before it's picked
It would
up?
be stored in containment within the building until it's picked up.
So that's what I'm talking about,
Yep.
about secondary containment.
Yep.
So all oil is stored in such a way that if the primary containment vessel breaks, it's still contained. Okay? Yes.
So can I just go back to the automobiles for a moment?
Yeah, we're still on.
Okay, great, thank you. So in regards to service and repair, because there is inconsistencies from what I could see in the application, are you saying that repair is going to be service in terms of changing oil, or are you saying repair is going to be, we're going to take fenders off and we're going to be doing all kinds of noisy repair work as
Okay, so
opposed to service work?
Your concern is noise generated by...
My concern is what type of work is going to be performed on automobiles.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think that would fall into the class of light maintenance. It wouldn't be anything that you're talking about with like taking body panels off and things like that a traditional maintenance shop would do.
Or even overhauling a motor and taking it
No,
out.
yeah.
It's just if the vehicle that comes in on trade needs new wiring for a light or needs a new light fixture, something like that, that would be done on site in the garage, just the same as working on the boat and taking the oil out of the boat. You know, it's the same type of stuff. So that light maintenance work would be done in this thing. Any major work would be off-site, at some facility, some other facility. This is personal. This is not going to be for public. This
So you're only gonna service
the vehicles that
that are
we
traded
have
in.
and that we sell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cover
yeah.
that in.
This is, we're not going to service everybody's public car.
so I like the verbiage you gave me,
Yeah.
which was light maintenance work on vehicles.
On vehicles. Yeah.
I think that describes it. I think if you took an engine out, we'd call it heavy. Yeah, I get it.
So is that something that could be added to the CUP?
That's what I'm doing right now,
Okay.
is I'm writing down a list of things that we will then, once this public hearing is done, we will, go into a planning board meeting. We'll do a little, formal business of considering the minutes and, you know, calling it to order and everything. And then we will take this up as a conditional use permit application where you will not be welcomed to speak. And it'll be a discussion amongst us, and we're gonna go down this list of notes that I'm taking. And anybody else on the board may be taking notes too. And that's what we'll be discussing.
Okay, so just one other question. Are these bays gonna contain lifts?
No.
There'll be no lifts in the bays?
We're actually trying to, the focus of this is really winterization, spring commission, and storage and shrink wrap. We're actually limiting the year of the boat that we'll work on. We're not gonna be working on old boats, and no big, heavy, like we said, motors and stuff like that. That's not our focus. Actually, we're trying to get away from that as much as possible.
And, Mr. Chairman, if you could, just another point of clarification, that automotive work would not be done for the general paying public. It's a private piece that they're talking about, for themselves and for trade.
Is that true, Sam?
Yes.
For him and the cars that he might sell, if they get a problem, they bring it back in 30 days.
But
Okay,
I
the
mean,
warranty work, you know.
Yeah, we're establishing for sure that I can't come over with my car and say, can you change the oil? Can you do a brake job, whatever. You're not gonna do it. You're gonna turn me away.
No, correct. I'm sorry.
But, you know, I get it. I get it from a business point of view on your part, and I get your concern too. I mean, this is good stuff.
Are you gonna be painting the cars that are taking the trade, and or are you gonna be bottom painting these boats?
No bottom paint, whereas we're on the lake, we really don't service saltwater boats, plus, no body work at all. No, we'll never be doing body work, we're not good enough.
I can only write so fast. But I'm trying to capture this stuff because, it's important. Is that all we've got on this?
Off to the
Over
right.
here. Excuse me. I wanna go back to the oil. You're talking about oil containment and stuff like that. What about every motor has a filter on it? The filter is a hazardous waste. They have metal in them. They have biodegradables in them. What happens with the filters? You're gonna have an oil guy come and suck the oil. You have to pay to get rid of the filters. Where do the filters go?
The same people that take the oil. They provide containers for them, and they take the
And they crush them a lot of places.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing, it's right in standard.
Do you have the name, did you provide us with the name of the people that, are gonna take your oil?
Didn't in the application.
Is it in the application?
We
I
didn't.
didn't think so.
No, we didn't in the application because it wasn't an item, but we can.
He's looking it up.
Yeah, no, that's fine, that's fine.
It would be, Sear Environmental or Allstate.
This is Jay, he does the boat servicing and works with Sam.
Allstate is
This is Sam Newby.
Allstate is a company we've been talking
Allstate what?
Environmental.
Environmental. We may require you to show a contract to our code enforcement officer on that, from time to time. You know, like 5 years from now, are you still doing that, or now are you going behind the barn and dumping, you know, I mean, we don't wanna keep up.
We actually had multiple offers of people that take our used oil, but we decided not to do that, so that we won't be transporting it.
Yeah, great, yep. You had another name besides Allstate Environmental?
Yeah, there's, CYR Environmental.
Yes.
They gonna have any gasoline or oil storage on that lot?
It would be just the waste oil that comes out of the boats to be picked up by Allstate, and we will have, gallons and quarts that we put back in the boats.
Of oil.
Of oil, yeah, I'm
Not
sorry,
selling.
no, we will not be
No
storing
gas,
No.
no gas.
No,
Every boat's got gas in it.
you will be in the sense that the boats have it.
Yes,
The
yeah.
boats, the boats will have the gas in them, yes, but not.
So you're just gonna treat the gas, not pump it out?
Correct, everyone's just treating it now, as opposed to pumping it out, it's way too hazardous to pump out, and way too many chances for, mistakes and things to happen. So, it gets left in the boat, treated,
Okay.
and
The
the
reason why
batteries-
you, so they still pump out, you know?
batteries, really?
Yes, yeah.
Sam is saying exactly what the, Baldwin Fire Chief told me.
Right.
He'd rather leave the gas in the boat.
Yes, absolutely.
And he'd rather have a full tank than a half a tank of gasoline, less volatile.
Is there gonna be any fire suppression system along the buildings where the boats are? Or where you park the boats over the winter?
No, non-proposed.
No, there's
I
not any
mean, this is
proposed.
the woods out here, one flick and it goes right up.
And I own some land right almost next to it, within a quarter mile. So I'm concerned about fire too.
Yes.
And I had a long and interesting conversation with the fire chief. He's not concerned about fire on this.
He doesn't have a house on the lake.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at it however you want, but he doesn't see this as a big danger. He doesn't see this as a real problem. And I have to go with what the fire chief tells me. Yes,
Yeah, and I respect that. They were saying that, he has no concern with the access, but does he feel like he would have the ability to respond should something happen?
he had no problem with the access, he had no problem with, he can respond as quickly as he can respond to my house. He didn't see a problem. We looked at the plans and it just doesn't seem to be a fire hazard to him. And it seems controllable to him, as much as anything is controllable. Can I move on? No?
I have a question, if the boats are gonna be in 4 levels, wouldn't there have to be some sort of lift to get the boat up to the 3rd and 4th level? It seems like a very big warehouse.
There'd be a forklift, yes.
Forklift, but all the boats would be lifted with a forklift. We brought up into the shelves. It'd be a big forklift that walks, it goes through the site.
Propane?
We haven't fallen yet, so. I'm looking forward to that. Propane is very common, I agree.
The decibel level of the forklift?
They're very quiet, actually. I don't know the decibel, to be honest with you.
Well, very quiet might be very different. It's different
Well, I
people.
guess it's not, it wouldn't be, it's any louder than a car, certainly quieter than a boat.
How many total in boats are you planning on? What do you figure the capacity would be, total capacity?
The building, the storage.
How many boats?
The storage building will hold, 100 boats inside, and with the overhang on the outside, under three walls will hold another 148 percent.
We had said in the application 150 to 200. boats
And
on site.
how many gallons of gasoline in each boat? Would you say 10, 15?
It varies.
It sounds like it's a bomb, I mean, you're storing all the stuff there, if a fire started, there'd be no way to control the wood. I mean, I only live a quarter mile away, not even a quarter mile. Seems like an awful lot of gasoline to store.
Well, if you think about it, everybody has a couple cars in their driveway with a gas tank full, and everybody has 200 gallons of oil or propane or kerosene outside their house. Everyone has a 5-gallon can, and I don't know, there's a lot of flammables around us everywhere.
I know, well, I'm just afraid of vandals, okay, doing something,
Yeah.
getting in there and lighting a fire or starting a fire. That's my concern.
Absolutely.
Really, I'm not trying to
No, I
put
totally
any
understand it, sir.
restrictions on you running a
It's
business.
there's a lot of liability and a big risk here.
You know?
It is.
We have a concern about the capacity of a volunteer fire department to respond to a fire where 200 bolts are being stored. I think, that's my personal concern.
Mhm.
And you're telling us, Josiah, that the fire department, or whatever his fire chief, is saying he has absolutely no concerns. I'm concerned that the fire chief has no concerns.
No, I wouldn't say absolutely no concerns, but this is not a great risk as far as he's concerned.
Why can't we get the fire chief down here to speak to us in person, and we ask him our fire question?
Well, we can. You know.
I think we should all agree on that next meeting, since this is gonna be another chapter. And the fire chief is present with our concerns about the capacity of the fuel and what could happen. Not his say-so, what we won't recommend to him, and then we can all discuss it.
Well, if we have to go on for another, a meeting in 2 weeks, then that's what we would have to do, but,
I think it's important. We all have houses less than a quarter of a mile away.
All of the surrounding towns have pretty big cold storage. If you go to Naples, there's Moose Landing, there's Long Lake Marina, Naples Marina, Bridgeton, they have probably 6 or 8 big storage buildings there. They probably have the same type of fire department, right? I mean, we're probably as close to Sebago Fire Department as we are to Baldwin.
They're actually closer to Standish.
Standish as well.
The one just down from the other side of the
But,
and they
I think they all work together. I tried to research it, I couldn't find multiple with storage fires. Pretty rare.
I must have no reception. I was calling the fire chief. Maybe you can do it. That's a shame. Let's move on.
I have a question. I
Yes.
thought we were listed as farmland, not commercial.
Rural. The rural district. It's not labeled farmland, it's labeled rural.
And that allows commercial?
Yes. Yep.
Hey, Steve. This is Matt Fricker on the planning board. We're having a public hearing on the boatyard. And, folks are having a lot of questions that they kind of wanted to directly ask the fire chief to put them at ease. If you have a chance to stop down, I think, Steve, everybody's staring at me.
You're so good. We're all listening.
Put him on speaker.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think what we can do is as soon as you get here, you'll have the floor, you can have some dialogue with them, and then we can let you go. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, so.
Don't keep him too long. He says he has to get up for work at 4 o'clock in the morning. So.
Okay. It It is estimated there will be 2 to 4 employees on site during the hours of operation with approximately 5 to 10 customers per day who will primarily be either dropping off or picking up boats. Question, does this mean there will not be any customers dropping off or picking up cars? I think we have the answer to that, and the answer is no. You might have a customer picking up a car they bought, but you won't have people dropping off cars and picking up cars. And I think we covered that. Applicant hours of operation expected to be from 8 to 5, 6 days per week. Can the hours of operation be formalized into a set schedule, for example, 9 to 5? The planning board's experience is that this can be a trick question. Somebody comes in to turn the heat on a little early to get something done. Their wife has to drop them off on the way to work. And so they're half an hour early, and therefore you're in violation of your conditional use permit. Another person has a fleet of trucks, and the guys go out and they do servicing. And who knows how long it takes you to service this particular machine, and you get back half an hour late, 2 hours late. You may not get back till 10 p.m., and we considered that when we gave the conditional use permit. In this case, they came to us with this 8 to 5 or 8 to 5, and we suggested they go 9 to 6, so they wouldn't be caught in this trap. They were 7 to 6. I'm sorry, 7 to 6. So they wouldn't be caught in this trap. I don't know what the compromise is, but Matt seems to be able to tell me.
When do we ask questions, when we have like a question about the hours?
Oh, you can ask.
Yeah. This is a seasonal business, in the way that a whole crush of people are gonna wanna have their boats ready for Memorial Day weekend, and then, when the first frost is coming and everything like that, people are gonna be swarming to have their boats shrink wrapped and stored. Do you anticipate that you'll find yourself in a situation where during those seasonal high peak workload times that you're going to want to have a crew working, till 9 or 10 in the evening?
I don't anticipate that. No.
We had said in the application that during those peak times, we expected the customers to go for 10 customers per day, and on the less busy times, it would be 5 customers per day. So,
And those things do happen over a period. It's not like it's the weekend before. Usually the people are planning ahead, and Sam is moving a lot of boats that he's storing from his business on Long Beach, over at Spago Lake. So he's moving those vehicles 2 or 3 months, I shouldn't say, over a 2-month period is when you're gonna see those boats come in. It's not gonna happen, and that's why, and you only got 4 employees.
Yeah, we don't have a big crew.
It's not intended to be, Good.
Is it possible compromise to adjust the hours for Saturday, so that it doesn't start at 7 a.m. on Saturday?
Jay would like that.
When
He
a lot of
sounds-
us are coming.
Friday night?
We put that in there, but I don't believe that we'd be working more than a half a day on Saturday, and ask Jay, but, we put that in there just in case, because so there will be situations like Joe says, sometimes you may have a customer that, it's the 4th of July, and they, and something happened with their boat, and Jay can fix it in an hour or 2.
And the bilge pump goes, so they truck it over and he fixes it and truck it back.
A lot of times we'll go right to the customer, but sometimes you have to take them to the shop, so. But it's not gonna be a busy Saturday, it's not gonna be a busy day.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, you're gonna have 200 boats, right?
Well, it's gonna take a while to get there.
Right, but that's your plan, to have 200
Yeah.
boats. And our plan
more.
is, and our goal is to try to maintain the serenity that we have on Sam Pond.
Absolutely.
And hearing boats being serviced at 7 AM on a Saturday morning is not how I want to spend my Saturday morning on Sam Pond when I've spent 3 hours driving up here from Massachusetts to enjoy the serenity.
I would
So
expect you to come right up and see me and tell me if there's something that's too
But
noisy
that's
that
what
we're
I'm trying to
doing.
avoid, Tim. We're trying
Yeah.
to get some of the vagueness out of this CUP so that we don't have to have a back and forth and say, Sam, your guy was there at 6:55 AM. That's not the kind of neighbor we want to be. And we know from the site visits that that's not the kind of neighbor you want to be. You want to be as good a neighbor to us as we want to be to you. So if there's some way that we can compromise on these hours, you know, or at least on Saturday.
Mhm.
Minimum is best.
Yeah,
Sounds
right.
good to me. What would work for you on Saturday?
I mean, I'd be happy with 8 on Saturday.
I'm fine with that.
I don't know how everybody else feels. I don't want to speak for everybody else. I just don't like 7.
Listen, every time you back a few hours, like, he just smiles.
Well, you know, we have a little side deal going
to him
here.
and you'll get everything you want.
We had a little side deal going, so.
So, 8 to 4 on Saturday?
That's fine with me. Everybody else speak up, but.
So 7 to 6, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 on Saturday, and, the plan is nothing on Sunday, right?
Just the racetrack.
That's for the next meeting.
So, no Sunday work, not even emergencies. I mean, you know,
So let me ask a question. If I have one of my rental boats break on Saturday night, and he can do a quick repair on Sunday morning to it, can we get it, able to get the customer on the lake, or is that not gonna be allowed?
That's only gonna be like in July and August, don't forget. That's not
Yeah,
gonna
well,
be-
everything's
Right,
pretty,
but I mean,
everything's
some
pretty
people are
comprehensive.
there for, that's the only time, but, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, the rental season's like from the end of June till Labor Day. The, spring season starts,
Yeah, exactly.
the beginning of May, pretty much, maybe late April, beginning of May, and everyone's in by usually the first week or so of June. And then the end of the season is like, Labor Day to, the end of October. So
Just
I
jumping
think
ahead a
that-
little bit to the noise section, but if indeed all of the work is gonna be done indoors with the doors closed, is that a guarantee that everything will be done indoors with the doors closed?
I can't guarantee that.
Fogging out motors, anything else like that would happen?
he's not swapping out motors.
No fogging.
Fogging.
Fogging out.
I can't guarantee it'll all be inside the closed doors.
Well, that's what our concern would be at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning, is
Right.
the outboard going at.
Well, we agreed to 8 and 8 to 4, so nothing will happen at 7.
And even still, 3:30 in the
Is that okay,
afternoon.
sir? I don't know. That's what someone suggested, so.
Either everything's gonna be done indoors or it isn't.
Oh, no, I just said that. I said I can't guarantee it'll all be done indoors. If it's 90 degrees, I don't think James gonna wanna go inside and close the doors. just have to be honest with you. I don't wanna say it is and then not stand up and do that.
So we're looking at hours of operation right now, try to keep this organized. That's what we're concentrating on at this point in time.
And no Sunday. No Sundays, no.
And no Sundays, and that's what that's correct, that's where we were talking. Yes,
On that same line of, thought, you said if one of your rentals broke down, so it's gonna break down on Sebago, so you're saying that you would take the rental and bring it to the Baldwin?
Only if it needs to go to the shop. Usually fix it right there. Only if it would need to go, like if someone hits a rock or something.
So in that case, you would actually bring it to the Baldwin site?
Yeah.
So you don't do that kind of repair in Sebago?
Oh, no. No, we only have waterfront property there in the parking lot. This is why we're doing.
Right, there's no facility.
Right.
It's a big.
But I would imagine that would be so that you're not anticipating that you need to turn that boat around to the paying customer in an hour so that they can have it for the rest of the day. You'd probably give them a different
No.
boat.
We have a spare boat?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then there would be no sense, you could bring it to Baldwin, but just leave it on the lot and fix it
Yeah.
on Monday.
Yeah, only if that spare boat's already out and they crash another one or something, but it's pretty rare. I just, you know, I don't wanna say that nothing will ever happen there and then have Jay pull in to put a propeller on or something and, you know what I mean, upset anyone.
So we now have the fire chief, Steve Sanders is here.
Hello there.
So please, again, direct your questions to me, and Steve will answer.
How you doing?
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
basically, they're worried about the gasoline in the 200 boats, plus or minus.
Okay.
That might be stored there over the winter, and, what kind of danger does this pose to their houses?
Okay. Well, is it all right if I ask a question first? Do we have the
Sure.
lower building? Okay, hey, I'm Steve. By the way, hey, I'm Steve, I'm your fire chief here in Malden. I've been fire chief since April.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see you, all of you guys, actually. It's just great. If you guys ever have any questions, definitely just call the town office, leave a message on my voicemail, and I'll help you out as best I can. So, good to meet all of you. You guys are the ones building the facility?
Yeah.
These are primarily freshwater lake boats, right? We're looking at a lot of pontoon boats, right?
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about pontoon boats is they're metal. They're not fiberglass, they don't burn. They do contain gasoline. Most of the time that boats are stored, at least if I was storing a boat at a facility, I'd like my gas tank full. And the reason I'd like my gas tank full is so it doesn't condense or rust out my gas tank. And that would kind of probably put somebody who doesn't have a ton of fire training and say, oh my God, a full tank of gasoline in every single boat. But it limits any air that's in there, and we all kind of know that we need air for fire. So full tanks of gasoline are a good thing. It's also good for your customers, so we're not rusting their gas tanks, you know. I have actually looked at the plans. Me and Joe talked about these plans a little bit before this hearing ever took place, and we looked at some of the roads that were around it, and I'm guessing that that's where most of the residents here, right? You guys, most of you have your houses there. So the challenges with the fire department that I saw is that first off, they're private roads, right? So the road crew themselves can't really do anything like plowing or maintenance on them because they're private roads. And I'm talking about the town road crew. So there's some access issues where the roads don't exactly meet together to give you two ways out. Some of your roads are only one way out to Bridgeton Road or San Pond Road. And those pose the biggest threat, actually, in terms of fire safety. This facility is a metal building with a bunch of metal boats. Metal doesn't really burn. It gets hot, no doubt. And if there was a fire in this area, believe it or not, I've kind of worked our town fire department into shape enough that I believe that we have the ability to contain it. But the access issues worry me a little bit. So your roads in the area actually would be probably more of the area of focus that I would probably suggest banding together a little bit and seeing if you guys wanted to either widen or connect some of your roads so that if there is a fire, there is something like a disaster that happens, that while we're coming in, you can get out. Because too many times, working in not only Baldwin, but in other towns in Maine, I've seen we try to go in while people are trying to come out, and it's most important for us to remove people, you know, life is our first priority. But if we can do both at the same time, that would be the ideal situation.
One thought I had relative to your question, the thought that just popped into my mind is that the Standish Fire Company, right there on the corner by the school, and the Sebago Fire Company are as close or closer than some of the Baldwin companies. So my thought is that if there is a fire there, I don't think we should be thinking just about can Baldwin handle it and put it out, and I'm glad you whipped the fire department into shape. But there really is a team, you have Sebago and Standish that are,
To shed some light on what you're saying on kind of how fire department response works, this will also probably help some nerves too. As soon as we pay in your taxes, Standish, every year to do automatic aid to us. We've had staffing issues on this fire department for the last 30 years. And we don't always have enough people in town depending on what time the incident takes place. So we pay Standish yearly to, every time we get a fire alarm 911 call, they come. And they do all of our EMS. So you're automatically at any emergency scene in all of Baldwin going to get 2 fire departments. If we escalate those calls due to the nature of those calls, if it's an active fire, if there's a potential people trapped, you're getting even more fire departments. You're gonna get Cornish, you're gonna get Sebago. Cornish is typically gonna bring you water, and Sebago is gonna bring you people that will save you. So, that is, you're always going to get more than Baldwin. Especially in that area, it's primarily gonna be a Sebago, Standish, and Baldwin mutual aid effort is the terminology we use to take care of the incident.
If I could, on this site, isn't it helpful that our access is off of Route 11?
Absolutely.
Not off the private roads, so you can get to the fire, you can fight the fire, which we do have to maintain.
Absolutely.
And keep moving. And then you can worry about, if they're spreading beyond the site, you can worry about the neighbors.
Definitely. What I noticed in the plan was the road is really wide, and I can be able to get multiple trucks in at the same time and also get people out at the same time for the business facility. The other thing that's good is you do actually have a wetland that behind the building, which is wet. So, you know, it's a good thing if it was ever turned into a forestry situation. You have this big disaster where all the boats are burning, all the gas is on fire. It's very, very, very unlikely to spread as a result of the wetland also and turn into a forestry situation. We calculate something in the fire service called fire load. And what it is it's a pretty large calculation of a bunch of different things depending on what we call occupancy. Is it commercial occupancy, residential occupancy, or like a multiple housing kind of occupancy? In this case, you have a commercial occupancy, being that it's two metal buildings, not really full of flammables besides metal boats with gasoline, the fire load is relatively low for the size of the building. I'll tell you what, we don't have a ton of resources in town on your fire department. We have a lot of work to do and money to spend to make it a lot better, and it can be better. So I have to be very careful when I make these decisions, because although we're getting automatic mutual aid, I'm not taking it lightly and saying that, oh, this is just low fire load, good business. You know what I mean? It actually is. I would be a little bit more concerned with your fire concerns on like a multiple family, many residential units. They burn very fast and they house people. Insurance replaces boats. Insurance does not replace people. And, you know, just something to consider. I find it to be fairly reasonable. Sure.
So, the concern, I think, in general, is that the facility burns, and then it spreads to the surrounding area of Woodlawn.
Right.
And then, that's when our properties become endangered.
Correct.
And chances are, that's going to happen most likely when very few of us are here, because it's in the wintertime when the facility is full and we're not utilizing the summer cottages place. So, and plows aren't available because all of that wood load, all that, everything is closed up. There's no plows.
Yep.
So,
Just so
is
you know,
there a recommendation then that there is a buffer between the facility and the trees? 200 feet, 400 feet?
I don't think that distance is going to give you a buffer. Forestry firefighting works a little bit different than what I was talking about. So I think it's a great question. And I hope this will provide some answers for you. First off, in the winter, we don't really, we pretty much never have forest fires due to the fact that the ground is covered in snow. Forest fires burn on the ground. The trees themselves don't burn. The ground actually burns, tends to dry, and everything travels up the roots of the trees, and that's why you get these big, what we've been seeing in Canada over this year. That's where you get the big fires and the big smoke from, but it's the ground that burns. You have a huge wetland that buffers between the houses in the area, the residential occupancy in the area, and this commercial occupancy. I really do believe it to be a good buffer because it's a swampy area, so even in the fall time, March and October, November, it's usually in the middle of October to the middle of November, are your highest fire class days for forest fires. So I believe the buffer is pretty safe. Like I said, I kind of don't take it, I don't take it lightly. I'm responsible for not only all the firefighters in my department and their safety, but I'm responsible for your houses. And I go to school for this stuff, and I really train hard on it, something I really love, and I take pretty seriously ever since I've been a resident of Baldwin. So I wouldn't just, take a peek at a plan and say, it's wetlands, it's all good, it's all set. There really is a very good buffer and a very low fire load for this business. Again, when you start looking into, not to mention also you have two massive water sources nearby in order to control fire. You have all of Sand Ponds and you have Woods Mill. So for me as a fire chief, when I'm figuring out how would I command a scene to contain a fire to make it the least damage as possible, I find this one to be not as challenging as some other ones. The biggest challenge that, again, that I do see is road access. So I agree with you, that the lack of plowing and the ability to get in and out of your roads might be a little bit actually a larger concern than the building and facility itself. I hope that helps answer some of your questions.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question about the gasoline issue. How are you going to shrink wrap the boats with a propane torch or electric gun?
Propane torch.
One spark from a flame, there goes your boats, there goes the field.
Well, I would hope you'd do yours outside before you stored them, right? Okay, so that's a good thing. We're not gonna stack 4 boats on top of each other, right? And
No, I'm
shrink
not
wrap
talking
them.
about that, I'm talking about when he's shrink wrapping the boat, he's gonna use a propane with a lit torch.
Yeah.
That's how the plastic's gonna get melted.
Absolutely.
If there's a leaking gas line in a boat, one boat leads to another boat, leads to the woods. There's no fight, there should be some sort of fire suppression outside where they shrink wrap the boats, is what I'm suggesting.
Okay, yeah, what type would you recommend?
That's not my call, it's your call, you're the fire chief.
Oh,
What about putting a standpipe near the pond?
I mean, I'm all about fire infrastructure, so if you guys would like to get a dry hydrant nearby, what we are calling a standpipe, it's the same thing. That
Something close.
If that would make you feel better, sure. We as a fire department it's only gonna help your homeowner's insurance, so I'll give you that. If you put a standpipe near there, all your homeowner's insurance is gonna be affected positively, so it's great. We use this thing called floating strainers. We have to in rural areas because we're limited with our water sources. We have a big suction hose and this thing that floats on the end of it, and you can throw it into any lake, pond, or whatever, and draw all the water out of it. So the one good thing, like I said, is you have 2 massive water sources right nearby. What you're saying has a lot of truth and validity to it. I can't control what they do in their daily business operations and how and where they ship out their boats. So I would definitely recommend that if they are doing it outside, don't do it near any other boat. And the possibility of a leaking fuel line is a very real possibility. I've fought boat fires before. I went on Dearborn Road, just last winter. And
like we're saying, no one's around here in the winter. Primarily, that's when he's gonna be doing 80% of the shrink wrapping.
definitely, the fire department's here. We're here in the winter. I'm here all year round, and, I have to answer calls 24/7. So, boat fires are something we're, trained to take care of. Again, it would have to really depend more on their daily operations, I think, than so much the fire department for controlling where they use the propane torch to shrink wrap their boats. I just highly suggest you do it far away from any other boat.
So, Mr. Selectman, could we put something in the paperwork as by...
He's the selectman, I'm not. I'm sure of the planning board.
Yeah.
Any way you wanna call it. Is there something we can write in there that shrink wrapping can be done
I don't
outside?
see any need to. I think there's risk in life, and we're talking about risk here. I don't see any need to
I
do
would
it.
agree with you. I agree with the chief, and he agrees.
But I understood, wasn't October gonna be the end of your?
There may be a few stragglers the 1st of November, but we can't winterize anything after the promise that it won't be frozen. If they bring it in after,
There probably
usually-
wouldn't be anyone then.
we won't be doing it. It's pretty much done by the end of October.
Does the place get plowed out in winter in case there is some sort of a fire?
Yes.
Thank you, because they better.
Hey, you never know, man.
I appreciate it, you're looking out for me, I'm
That's
all
what I'm
about
saying,
that.
I gotta get in there.
No, absolutely.
That road is long.
Good.
Another question.
Yep, first, thank you for coming on short notice, we appreciate it. As
That's-
you can tell, we have a lot of concerns, but
I'm here for you guys, you're
we
welcome.
appreciate you being here. I'm not familiar with how a volunteer fire department works, because I don't.
We are not volunteer, we're paid, just so you know.
Pardon me?
You guys pay us, we're paid by the fire department.
So what would you estimate your response time would be if you get a call that
It's a great question.
there's a fire at Sam's boatyard?
That's an excellent question. Typically, because you're very close to Station 1, as of right now, you're...
Oh, wait, what do you mean as of right now?
As of right now, because, we'll get there, I can address that in just a second. As of right now, you're close to Station 1. The average response time, it's actually closer right now than potentially maybe in the future, because we're looking at building a fire station, a centralized fire station, so that you don't have to have response times from all over town. Sometimes people are only home in the west side of town, and your fire would be all the way on the northeast side of town. that would take almost 17 minutes to get to. So,
17?
almost 17, yeah, a little bit less depending on the weather. If you're talking in the middle of a snowstorm, yeah, like 17 to 18 minutes for sure. That's our longest response times. I am always going to give you the worst case scenario. It is my job. So I plan to always do better than worst case scenario, so that's what I'm gonna give you. From station 1, you're looking at more like 6 minutes. And that's because I have 2 firefighters. One of them is a captain who lives not far from there at all. And he's on it, and just so you remember, it's always equal 8. So Standish is a full-time, 24/7 paid department. They always have 2 firefighters at a minimum on staff in Steep Falls. Their response time to Bridgeton Road, not all the way up Sanpon Road, their response time to Bridgeton Road is roughly 4.5 minutes. They're very quick. It's something for you guys to think about. I do not want to hijack this meeting by any means and get on my fire department pedestal, but think about having a centralized fire department with paid firefighters on staff, and these situations and your nerves about these situations will also be growing. We definitely need to update our fire service. It's been the same for the last 75 years. Quite a long time.
Just want to clarify one thing. Fire extinguishers, you know, let's say you're wrapping a boat and you're wrapping it outside and something untoward happens and the boat goes up in flames. And I apologize if you've got this in the plan and I didn't see it, but what safety precautions or fire extinguishers or fire extinguishing capability do you have to prevent a conflagration?
Well, if it follows all of the regulations, we'll have it, monitored by a fire department that comes in every, 6 months or?
Depending on what the fire alarm system is, yep.
To check the, extinguishers, and, it's just a routine thing.
Are the extinguishers that you have, do you have enough of them, and are they large enough that you could put out a boat fire or a car fire, knowing how hot car fires burn?
We'll leave that up to the fire, company to tell us what we need, and then I'll just have whatever they require for what we're doing for work.
If you get it with a fire extinguisher before it gets out of hand, you've saved everybody and yourself a lot of headache. If you don't, stop and call 911. That's the suggestion you gotta know.
Unless there's any wood to knock on, but we've done it for 36 years without a problem. So.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess my concern is it's such appropriate location to put this kind of facility, and who was the last say on that? You were saying you'd fill your gas tank up, you got 200 folks, right, in one location, full of gasoline in the middle of the woods. I mean, who sensibly is gonna say, yeah, I think that's a great location? I know you have access from Route 11, but we're sitting on a time bomb if someone gets in there and vandalizes or does something. I mean, it's insane, I think, to think this is an appropriate location. That's all. I'll be quiet.
So anybody have any questions for Steve? Because he wants to go home.
Steve's having a ball here.
Do they have such a thing as a foam system that can spray out and cover the internal side? Like, you normally have a sprinkler system in any other big building.
That's a better question for what they're gonna install. I don't write any laws, I just protect you from fire.
No, I'm asking if there is such a thing.
There is definitely such a thing. There's all types of fire suppression systems. You can spend $250,000 on a fire suppression system, I believe. I mean,
is that something you might consider?
We don't have a water source to do that.
Yeah.
Why not?
We don't have one. You need a big pond, you need a lot of water.
No, they get the Halo ones that have the tanks that they get filled.
Halon, yeah.
Halon, right?
I mean, Halon exists, but, yeah, this is,
Not
$250,000.
Not for a 30,000 square foot building.
No, for like, hospitals.
Yeah.
imaging systems.
No. You need a big cistern to be able to draw from. We have a wet pond, but I'm not sure that's suitable for fire protection. We have a wet pond, so there will be water near the site. But, to put a fire suppression system in an it would freeze.
I'd just like to address what you said, because I think everybody's, what they have to pay is valuable. I hope you know that. When you pose it that way, it kind of, I hear what you're saying, you know, to put something in the middle of the woods that has a lot of fuel or something like that. But you gotta remember, we're in the town of Baldwin, right? So most of this town, first off, is woods. You also have a place called Dodge Oil that is filled with propane and oil, and I mean filled with it. I have to evacuate a 1 square mile radius if I have a fire at that place. And do you wanna know what they have for fire suppression? A little water gun in the back of that facility that will mist on top of a propane fire. That's what they have. And I go every single year, and I plan to with these guys, not any commercial business. I do this at the mill, I do this with Dodge Oil. It's called pre-incident planning. We plan for fires. Every single year, we have to revisit it to see if anything's changed in the building or the facility, and if that fire load that I was talking about with you first has changed. And the only way for us to be able to manage situations on that scale is to go ahead and pre-plan for it. So fire suppression systems are something that, you know, the town, as we start to grow, because we're growing with residents, we're growing with commercial businesses, it's just the inevitable direction of the town. You know, we do need to have a little bit more of those conversations. This is the first time a fire chief's ever been in a planning board meeting, ever, history of the town. So, ask me, call me, I will help guide our town towards that. I'm not here to just defend businesses, I'm here to make sure that we can also have a little bit of an offset on our taxes at the same time that we're also protected from fire. Business isn't the worst thing here. Massive homes full of tons of people are the scariest thing for your fire department. Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys have any other questions for the fire chief?
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you. Seriously, if you guys have questions about anything even related to this afterwards, I'd be happy to answer them for you. These guys are the lawmakers and the selectmen are the ones who manage the funds, so direct fire questions towards that phone and I would be happy to answer it and get back to you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk. Absolutely. Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody. Get home safe.
Thank you. It's great to have somebody who's really very professional about the job. And as you said, the first time we've called a fire chief into a planning board meeting. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how we ought to just come to one and sit here just to see what we do. And instead he got called.
Thank you for calling.
So addressing, generation of dust, noise, odor, vibration, glare, smoke, litter, and other nuisances. The applicant says the generation of dust, noise, odor, vibration, glare, smoke, and litter, and other nuisances is anticipated to be minimal. And we've also heard that they're going to point their lights down and inwards. And this is what could other nuisances be. What is the definition of minimal? What noise mitigation efforts will be put in place, and what odor and smoke mitigation will be put in place?
Got the lighting.
Yeah, so for lighting, we're proposing full cutoff lighting. Again, we're trying to leave as much of the, leave a buffer between the building and the wood line, but as much as the woods between the facility and the camps on Sand Pond. Again, almost half the property back towards Sand Pond is going to remain wooded. I think that's about 200 feet to the back property line. So there is quite a bit of wood line back there between the facility and the camp.
280 feet.
280 feet.
That makes it 270.
Okay, 270.
So, and again, we try to keep any of the gravel areas outside of the building setbacks, so not just the buildings, but any of those gravel areas that may produce any dust, which would be limited because it's not like a heavy commercial activity. There's only a certain number of boats that can be brought in here. Those gravel areas have been set back by the building setback.
What are you going to do to maintain the gravel areas? I mean, are you gonna rake it, you're gonna, you know, back drag it with a tractor, or what are you gonna do to keep it so that it doesn't form big puddles, and then that's undesirable too?
It's graded at 2%. I've been doing a lot of work with engineers, and if you keep it flat at 1%, it'll puddle. If you
Yep.
grade it off at 2%, the water will go away. So we should not have a lot of problems with puddling here. But if it does puddle, then the answer is that you grade it or you drag it, one or the other, and you do that once a year potentially. But the use here is for a few months in the spring and a few months in the fall. And it's
Yeah.
not like it's constant.
And it's not like a log yard or something like
Yeah.
that, where you have heavy trucks coming in
Yeah.
and beating that gravel surface.
Yeah.
So in the spring, it'll be, the ground will be deforming in some way, and in the fall, it'll be dry and probably not.
There's very good soil
Yeah,
out
it's
here,
huge.
and with a gravel base over those soils, it's well drained.
Yeah, we're putting 24 inches of gravel on this site.
Okay.
So we're building it up so it doesn't sink when you put weight on it.
Okay.
Could you just describe that type of lighting? I'm not familiar with the
Yeah,
type
so
of lighting you mentioned.
full cutoff, lighting just means that it's designed such that, none of the lumens get past the 90-degree angle. And if this is one for a pedestal light, all these lights would be mounted on the building, but there's no light that the bulb is designed to transfer above the height of the light itself. So 90% of the light is down at an 80-degree angle, and only 10% is between 80 and 90 degrees, and then it's designed for no light to go above the height of the bulb.
And typically the lens is up under the shield.
It's shielded.
So
Shielded
sometimes you
lens.
get cut off the luminaires, you have shoeboxes in parking lots, and they have this thing, this globe that comes down below.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have that in the full cutoff.
Which means that you're looking at the light that's coming off, but you're not, you look at some lights, you're looking at the bulb of the light, you can actually see the bulb, it's a shielded bulb, and with the full.
And today, these are gonna be energy efficient LED, I would assume, light, which can be controlled for motion, so that they don't go on, you know, they're only there. I mean, again, our activity is gonna be a few months of the year. They don't necessarily need to go on, so they can be timed and timed out and stuff like that.
So is that in the application?
No, but again, we didn't know what kind of public comments we were gonna get, but that's certainly something that can be done. So it's on when we're operating, and if somebody goes out there for safety purposes, if somebody goes out to do some vandalism or something, and the lights would come on, so that we know that somebody's out there, and obviously you'll have security. I'm pretty certain, that, you know, we'll know what's going on, with what's going on with health.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes.
How many lights do you anticipate having on the buildings?
It depends on each fixture. Each fixture has a different light, map on the ground that you can see. And we showed them along the building, because this is a big building, 200 feet. So we showed them about every 50 feet.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's only to allow us, when we're there in the fall and to get the boat up in the thing, and then after that, we're not, you know, we're not Walmart, we're not gonna be lit up.
Yeah, the thing with full cutoffs is they're designed to push down, so.
I was interested to know how many, kind of were
You
thinking
end up
about
with
we're gonna be
a
on,
few
you don't
more,
want
but they.
75 around the building, if you only need a dozen or so.
Yeah, no, he's right, that with a full cutoff, you need more than you do with the ones that spread, okay? But again, the lighting design that will come out when you buy a fixture, the electrician will know how many you need to put along the face of the building to give you the light you need to be able to see.
But it wouldn't normally be on it.
They don't have to be. We didn't say that in the application, but we certainly can talk to the planning board about limiting those hours. But again, it would have security, so if somebody's out there at night,
they're gonna go on.
it's gonna go on, okay?
And will you get alerted?
It depends on what kind, what kind of system you want.
The motors, and there's gonna be a lot of vandalism there, so, you know, you don't have a fence
motors getting installed. You anticipating any of that?
We're gonna have a gate at our facility, and if you weren't on the on-site, the three sides of the rest of the site have a drainage swale. So if somebody's gonna try to grab a motor, it must weigh quite a bit, God bless them, if they're gonna take it off,
I imagine you
4
have
stories or
small
whatever.
boats there too, right? Or you gonna have big
Well, I don't know what, most of it's big boats, right?
Yeah, the small ones, usually people keep at their homes and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, they could be subject to someone trying to take them. But my plan is to have them in a surveillance system as well.
Are the lights gonna be like, I'm sorry, are the lights gonna be on, at the roof line?
They'll be above, they'll be up at the roof, correct.
So when the larger building gets built, that's like 40 feet tall?
Yeah, something like that.
So it'll be,
Up at the higher thing, it'll be light down.
and, motion detection is good, except for every squirrel, chipmunk.
My motion detector at home, knows the difference between my squirrels and me. If I go out around in my yard at 9 o'clock, it takes a picture of me. But if the, small animals out at 9 o'clock at night, doesn't take any pictures. So they can distinguish size, it's amazing.
We have a new system that's installed, and we haven't got it calibrated yet.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it will come on if you don't calibrate it right. These lights may not be that sophisticated, that's really more, I don't know if yours is a security light that's coming on, or, it depends on how you do it. So, again, he hasn't picked that out, because we don't even know, we're gonna get approved, we hope we are. But, we haven't picked those lights out yet, but certainly we can pick those out with the understanding of what we're hearing tonight.
Could you just quickly explain why it would be, for security reasons, why would it be necessary to install the lighting at 40 feet up when nobody is gonna be 40 feet tall? Maybe you're equally sufficient at 8 feet high.
The building is a rack system on the outside. There's a overhang on this side, and this is open. So if you use this side of the building, it's open, and there's no wall to put a light on, so you have to put it up on the eave.
The intent is to be able, for security purposes, to be able to illuminate the side of the building, so you can see.
Yeah, see
Not
what's
just
going
the
on.
bottom of the
In,
wall, but.
lights on this wall can be any height that we need them to be, because it's just gonna be a door to get in, maybe a 16-foot high or 20-foot high door that you go inside the building. So you come in through the middle of the building and you load racks inside the building. And then you come around the edge and you load racks that could be on either side of the building. We did provide a sketch in the application that shows how that building is going. And I don't think that we can put it on any of the columns, but if it can be mounted on a column, it could. The problem is that when you move the boat, you're likely gonna rip it off. You gotta be able to get clear out to put that boat in the upper thing on the forklift.
You may have said this already and I missed it, but do you have a present facility like this at your marina so that you've already done this? Or is this all new to you? Like you are all starting with this plan and all of this is new?
I'm a designer, so this is the first one that I've designed, but if you go to Naples, there's one there. And you can buy these buildings prepackaged. So it's just prepackaging the building and putting it out. So it's new to Sam. He doesn't own one today. That's why he's trying to get covered storage today, because his business is growing at the marina, and he needs places.
The marina has not had a
No,
storage
no need.
facility.
It's been
You
stored.
have not been able to do this in the past.
It's been stored on the parking lot at the site, shrink wrapped and stored outside.
Yeah, we have, 2 storage lots where we shrink wrap and store outside.
Okay, that's just what I wonder, like, is
Yeah,
it
we
something-
also have been doing all of this work out of a 3,000 square foot building at the airport in Wilmington as well, so that's kind of why we're
Okay.
trying to do that.
Yes, so after that discussion, I guess I wonder if the application could stipulate that, those 40-foot lights are only on as a result of security detection, not normally on all night.
I think we're moving that direction.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is one thing that's great about public participation. You guys think of things we might not have thought of, and we reach amicable solutions.
We're trying to keep the ambiance. The concern is that, I live there, we all live there.
Yep.
And when the leaves fall down, you're gonna see, those lights run, you're gonna see it, I don't care how far back you got it.
Yep.
That's the concern, is that if the lights can go off, when we're trying to, as Emery says, drive 3 hours, come here, we wanna keep that ambiance, not sit out by the pond and all of a sudden see lights.
I get it.
Yeah, one of the
I
best
get it.
things
I have
about
been
the
fighting-
night sky,
I have been fighting this battle for all lighting in town to be focused down and inwards. I've been fighting that for 20, 25 years. I'm really, this makes me happy. I am carrying a torch, which, not around the boats though.
And if, we didn't see a lot of standards, I mean, there are some criteria, but it's not specified as it is in many other ordinances we work with. So we didn't know what we had to do until we get here and find out what the board wants.
Right.
Okay? And Sam has always been, I've worked with Sam for a number of years now, and Evan has worked with a bunch of clients as well, so we're both experienced in this, and we wanna try to make it work for you. I mean, he doesn't want neighbors that doesn't like his operation.
Josiah?
Yes.
On the next point, I think the basic question, or I think concern is there any way that the doors can face 107 as opposed to the way they're on the plan now?
You're facing Grant Road?
These doors here are facing not on the garage.
Yeah.
These are doors. There's a door here, there's a door here. This whole wall is open, and this whole wall is open.
The bay doors is what I was talking about.
The garage doors?
Yes.
Yes.
They're facing towards, the west, not Grant Road.
Right, we don't want them facing towards Grant Road, we don't want them facing north. We would prefer to have them facing east, so that they're facing 107.
Right.
That way, if you're doing work and it's...
You have to rotate the whole building.
Right, you just
Right.
learn, while it's still in the planning stage, is it possible to turn the building?
The concern is that any noise, it's gonna go right at Grant Road. And it'll echo right out through the pond, out there right now, so.
There's only doors on this side.
Right.
And that's what we're asking, to have the building shielded.
And Grant Road's here.
Right, but Grant
And
Road
this-
is.
This is several hundreds of feet to the next road.
Right.
And the butters are back here.
And
Yeah,
that
it's close
sound
though,
travels
so
on
when
the pond.
It travels.
It travels,
That sound-
all
Big
the
time.
sound,
We can hear it.
from the highway, from
You can hear
the
the
burn
sawmill.
pit, the
Right.
sawmill, it all echoes
We can hear
on
the
the
big
pond.
ovens going
So if
and
we could
whatnot.
turn that building 90 degrees and have it facing 107, then a lot of that noise that you would generate doing your business would be projected towards the road as opposed to towards the pond,
Towards
which
the
echoes.
racetrack.
They can come back to noise.
So,
That's what the racetrack needs.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm trying to understand. You want the doors facing this
No.
way?
No.
That's-
No.
so-
107.
Yeah.
Rotate it.
So the reason I didn't do that is that it messes up the grading for the stormwater system. It's always a conundrum when you're designing these things to make the ordinance work, the neighborhood work, and to make the stormwater work. And DEP and the state rules are very stringent on stormwater. So I'd have to really look and talk with I'm not an engineer, but I own my own engineering firm, but I'd have to talk to the engineer about whether there's a better way to do that and make it work. We're trying to put a ridge through the site here, so the water drains in both directions. You make that ridge, we're gonna puddle water in between the buildings. That's the problem. And I don't wanna have ice where we going in and out of the building.
You swap the buildings, big in front, small in back.
that would be the first time a town ever asked me to do that, to put it out on the street, but.
That would make the service building closer to your home.
Right,
Yeah.
We don't want that.
But it'd make your garage doors closer to your homes, I don't think. you
Right,
want
we
that.
don't want
No.
that.
This way, you also have the larger building as a noise blocker, because, you know, the doors open this way towards Sebago, you know, and it's, you know, they have a lot of noise in Sebago anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, the large building is a blocker for, anything that's happening right in front of the bays.
And if you turn it 90 degrees, I think you could still create your ridge, your water runoff ridge in the same center capacity. It would just mean that your front bays,
You have a 100-foot building, and you have to go 2%, so that's 2 feet. So if you put the grade in the crown in the middle, the indoors are gonna be a foot lower, foot either direction. It'd be a foot lower, and that's where the problem comes. You gotta have that flat ramp to get up into those buildings. Again, it's really up to what the board wants to do, and I respect the comments, but it would be more difficult to do the site if we were to turn it.
So, let's,
But it would make us a lot happier.
get that understood.
Understood very well. I do understand.
I'm gonna make a note, and we may come back to this. There are complications, and sometimes when you ask for things because you don't like the way they are, you change it, you might like it even less. You never, you don't know. So, the primary function of the site will be for storage and sale of boats and automobiles. We pretty much covered this, but we can go over it one more time. Again, this reference to storage and sale of boats and automobiles does not include service. There have been mention of repairs earlier in the application, but not in this impact section. What is the true primary function of the site? As part of the CUP, will the applicant agree to have all work performed indoors, have the bay doors closed, while services being provided, and have the doors face 107? So, we're back to that question. I think, we're looking at this, and we're realizing if we close the doors and it's 102 degrees, it's pretty inhumane to the people doing the work. If it's over 80 degrees.
We'll strike that concern.
Scratch
Closed
that,
doors, scratch the closed doors.
scratch the closed doors.
What
But
kind
move
of a
the
buffer
building.
zone can you put up there for the sound across the back of the property?
Well, I think there's one there already, and it's called trees.
No, the dirt, like the side of the highway, they go up in the air.
So, okay. Will the noise from equipment and tools used in the bays and moved to boats, the forklifts, be adequately controlled to avoid noise, dust generation beyond the parcel of land? I guess the noise that I can tell that you've talked about is the forklifts. And I mean, I've run forklifts, and they can be very quiet, or they can be very noisy. You can have diesel forklifts for outside work. I hope you don't get a diesel forklift. And propane forklifts are incredibly quiet. Would that be stepping outside our bounds to ask you to have a propane forklift or an electric forklift? Give you a choice there?
Can I answer the question about the forklift?
Sure.
Do you mind? So I just did research really quickly. A diesel forklift can be as loud as 100 decibels, which is about the same decibel level as a lawnmower. So it's not gonna be any different from you folks mowing your lawn outside.
We don't.
Except they don't do it.
We don't mow lawns, but you did.
Nice try. Spin again.
And these aren't gonna be operating all day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My daughter went up.
My son works for the business. I've been in the business as long as I can remember, younger than him. But
Is this your son who
this
works
is,
in the
this
business?
is one of my sons. He actually does. Yeah, no, he sells snacks for nonprofit, for American Heart Association, actually. Yeah, no, it's as loud as a typical lawnmower. So, and like my dad had mentioned, that this is a seasonal business. It's not gonna be functioning like an everyday business like you see on this road.
And we're seasonal residents.
I mean, is there that much of a cost differential between the propane and the diesel?
You know, I don't know, I can look into it, my.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like just use the propane.
Most definitely consider it.
Be a good neighbor, you know? That's all.
Yeah, well, is in the era of EV, is it any beneficial to you to go electric? Do you get any tax break or
I
anything?
haven't researched it, I have to be totally honest, I haven't even researched it, I've spent so much money up to this point, but
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at it yet, you know?
Just a thought.
Yeah, I would definitely consider electric or propane, absolutely. Listen, we live on the lake, so I know how noise carries, and I, be honest with you, there is more noise created by the renters around us than there are by any of the boats. So, there are a few boats that are pretty loud, but.
But you don't live on San Juan, you're all very quiet.
Good, that'd be great, and I plan on being the same way. I plan on being the same way.
Except when I'm doing logging.
Except when you're logging, that's.
Yes.
No.
Logging? That's not quiet.
The racetrack.
That's a separate meeting.
Didn't go too well by the sounds of it.
Who was up there last week?
So, let's go along here, I will put forklift down as a question. I begin to see, that we will probably come back at our next meeting, we will not finish tonight. My apologies on that, but that's where we're going, and that's okay. Bob, you have something you wanted to bring in front of us, and what I'm gonna do is close this down at 9 o'clock, and then deal with your situation. Well, no, I wanna move it forward one meeting. You know, and you'll probably only take 20 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. Just, I like to keep moving things forward, I don't like to hold them up too much.
Josiah, if I could just say that some of these things that are in the letter we've already discussed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can probably be even quicker than what
I don't
people
want
already
anybody to
contributed.
feel, you know, that I'm doing that to them.
Oh, no, I
Here.
appreciate that, but I just,
But-
some of these items we've gone over and Sam's addressed them, and.
Thank you, thank you. Capacity of the storm drainage system, has the permit been approved for your storm, drain?
It's in the process of review, and right now they're backed up. They are supposed to issue a permit no later than November 7th, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but
Okay.
1st of November.
Once they issue a permit, is there a limit you have to do the work or start the work at a certain time?
Typically, the DEP permits are 2 years to start and 5 years to complete.
Okay. The ability of the town to provide necessary fire protection, I think we've
Done that.
talked to the fire chief about that. Shoreland standards, applicant, will be no stormwater flow from proposed development area flowing towards sand ponds. What happens if there's an oil gasoline spill on the property? How is that mitigated? Do you have a?
We'll report it to DEP.
Yeah,
And do whatever they say.
okay.
In the gravel yard, you scoop it up.
What about the water you use for the engines to cool them down when you fog them? Where would the water go, the runoff from the engines? To the ground?
I believe it goes onto the ground and evaporates. I don't think it's contaminated, just the same thing that comes out of your boat when you're in the lake.
Well, yeah, the exhaust, the foam, the fogger comes, you know, I've seen it probably, sometimes the fogger comes out the exhaust and makes a mess into the water.
I tend to do it a little different. I usually take the spark plugs out and fog it in a different way.
Could I ask for my education, what is this fogging? I'm very foggy on that.
You're coating the cylinders of the engine so as it sits,
With the oil?
yeah, it's
Got it.
the coating on the inside of the engine.
They do
snowmobiles.
I do it to machinery.
So the pistons don't freeze up inside the chambers.
I got it, thank you. I just, it was being thrown around and I wanted to know what was being said.
I just had a question about, Sam, are your employees trained? Like, if there's an oil spill, do they just go, oh, wow? Or do they immediately respond to know what to do?
No, we all, just like the marina, all of the people that work for us are AB certified, through the state, and they're pretty knowledgeable kids. And Jay has been doing it his whole life, so he's worked for new car dealers and worked for us as a teenager.
All right, Jay, it's all on you.
In accordance with Maine shoreland standards, does this application comply with the 250-foot of shoreland buffer?
We're nowhere near this. We're way outside of the shoreline buffer. It cuts off a corner over here. One of the plans shows it. Here it is right here. So this is the area we're working. Okay, this is the site, it's 300 feet across here. This is the 250-foot shoreline boundary. Right off the back of these camp lots. So there's no activity and our water's going out the front, out this way.
Dust, fumes, vapors, and gases. We question the purpose of the CUP. Will auto boat repairs be conducted on this property? Further, are boat winterization tasks considered service or repairs? Winterization of boats has not been fully described as required by 8.2A2 of the town ordinance. Let me see what that means. 8.2A2, describe the exact nature of the proposed use. I think they're as exact or more exact than most of our applicants.
I would agree that they are in this discussion, but I'm not sure they are in the application. I mean, we've gotten a lot more from this discussion than we do from reading the application, personally, that's my opinion.
Okay.
I'm not speaking for anybody else.
So that's part of what we're kneeling down.
Right.
This is what we're gonna discuss about.
We're just trying to eliminate some of the vagueness that I perceive on my part.
I got it, and I don't blame you.
And our assumption then would be that following the discussion, things that are omitted or not discussed in the application are going to be conditions applied as part of the conditional use permit if the board so decides to issue that permit.
So, probably what will happen is I'll go and type this up, and the board will discuss it, and probably somebody other than me will wordsmith it, and we'll go through a revision or two, and we'll come up with what the conditions are. We'll discuss with Sam and his team, whether it's appropriate, what they think, could we tweak it, whatever. And that will be an open discussion. This board does no business outside that door. We don't talk to each other. We talk to each other. Are you gonna show up tonight? Are we gonna have a quorum? We talked to each other today about that. But nothing about what was on the agenda or going on. If you talk to any one of us outside of a meeting, you're getting a personal opinion. You're not getting a commitment, because we're only making a commitment as a group. We're only discussing this as a group. And sometimes people don't understand that, but we're really strict. We've got a lawyer on the board. He's not here tonight, but he whips us every time we, try to, find room to do something wrong. He doesn't allow us. And he's been very good at training us on that. Will gasoline, oil, grease, diesel, lubricants, antifreeze solvents be used for boat winterization and getting ready for summer dewinterized? Be used on site? How will these chemicals be stored, used, recycled, and or disposed of? How much will be stored on site? So we've talked about that, and I've talked about how we will probably require some sort of proof that they have a person to dispose of these chemicals, the gasoline, the oil, whatever. Will above ground or below ground tanks be used to store these fuels? Are you gonna sell gasoline? No. No? Okay. No sale of gasoline. What water source will be used for the maintenance of boats? You're gonna drill a well?
Yep.
How will the wastewater from the cleaning of boats and engines be captured and recycled or disposed of? So you wash everything off and it just goes down into the ground?
So all the water that's, if any water falls on this site, it goes into that stormwater treatment pond.
The what pond?
The stormwater treatment pond. So the site grading is designed so that no matter where any water comes off from anything on the site, that would eventually make its way into that treatment pond before it exits the site.
And where does the water go from the treatment pond?
The water goes from the treatment pond, it ends up eventually down in, Woods Mill Pond across the road.
And what happens in that treatment pond?
What happens in the treatment pond? There's a extended length, around the treatment pond that the water has to pass through so that anything that's in the water can settle out before it gets to the outlet of the pond. So there's it's basically a settling pond, so anything that's washed off from the gravel area goes into that pond. And then there's an elevated, outfall so that by the time it gets around, there's a period of settling that takes place.
Does this pond require maintenance?
Yes. This pond, in addition to what he's saying, it comes along, to one edge, and there's a filter bench, and then it goes back down through filter material, and then it discharges out through a catch basin. And there is a maintenance responsibility, and there is a maintenance plan in our application. I think we gave the inspection and maintenance in there. We didn't, it's in the DEP application.
Yeah.
So there is maintenance required, and DEP requires stormwater ponds to be recertified every 5 years.
How does the drainage get from this to Woods Mill Pond when 107's in the way? Route 107 is in the way.
There's ditching along the road.
There's a ditching and culvert, so where the pond exits into the ditching on, Route 11, and then that crosses 11 down towards Woods Mill Pond. So that's the body of water that eventually makes it into is Woods Mill Pond.
So you're putting a culvert in under Route 11?
I think there's one already there.
It goes to Grant Road and then out as far as I know. Across there.
So that's also, we've gotten into road services, include all maintenance.
Because where I live.
Will boat bottoms be scraped, sanded, painted, and, these are only freshwater boats you're taking, only boats operated in freshwater, which sheds a different light on the, yeah. So you wouldn't object to a condition that, no boats that have been in salt water come to your marina? No. So there won't be any barnacles on them?
This pond's got,
Yeah.
Milfoil.
Yeah, milfoil.
Okay. will you spray do any spray painting? No spray painting. Okay. Why am I writing this down if you two guys are writing too?
I'm writing something else.
Oh, okay. Your wife's not here, you can't pass notes. Glare, no light will be reflected onto any neighboring properties or towards Bridgeton Road. Can the applicant be required to specify what type of lighting will be used? At the sidewalk, one of the town officials noted the town requires down lighting, however, is not specified in the CUP. We've covered this. What will the height of the lights be? And we've covered this. We gotta talk about this when we come to conditions. That's gonna be interesting to write. Industrial odors. Because of the purpose of this project, it is only to store and sell boats and automobiles. No industrial odors are anticipated. Question, please clarify the purpose of the CUP. Will it include automobile and boat repair? We have talked about that. Will Long Beach Marina agree not to use Sand Pond to service its boats throughout the year?
Yes.
Unless it's someone that lives on Sand Pond.
There you go, there you go.
We don't have boats big enough, Dan.
Oh, you don't need us.
And to answer your question about if additional future development is contemplated, can the CUP specify that a new CUP or amendment would be required? That is true. If there is an expansion of the business, they would need to come back. We're seeing more of that now than we've ever seen. It's only, it's been hard enough to get business to come to Baldwin for an initial CUP. Now we're getting those people coming back for renewals to expand business, and it's nice. It's nice to see. Okay, that is the end of that letter. That's great. There's a lot there. Thank you. You guys put in a lot of work. Somebody's coffee maker worked over.
One more comment.
What?
No matter how careful you are and how much you try to have low impact, all the trees that you cut is gonna be significant. Looking at it today, you have to cut a lot of trees to do this project. That alone is gonna increase noise and lights and all that. It can't be helped. It's a fact. I'm just pointing that out. So.
Okay.
Yes. Can I ask what we came up with for a sound barrier between the property and what you were talking about? You said trees. Is there any other way we could get a mound of dirt around the property edge where our houses are? What have you guys thought of?
Does that affect your stormwater plan?
It would affect the stormwater plan. You'd have to build, I don't know what kind of mound you think you'd need to have a sound barrier, but
The side of the highway, how they have the wooden ones, or they have the dirt ones that go up at an angle?
We would have to remove trees in order to.
That would disturb more trees and.
Like you would at the edge of your property.
Not sure. I think Don would have to take a look at that, because there's a limit on what you can do as you get closer to the wetlands. I don't know exactly where the wetlands start, but.
How about a fencing, some sort of fencing?
So there's wetlands on the parcel, but not on the site, is that the case?
Right, in the back corner.
Yeah. Upper left, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there any other questions, concerns?
I just want to thank you for your time, for everybody's time. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Obviously, we feel passionately about our property and our ability to enjoy it, as well as the impact on our property values. I mean, let's face it, having a boat and storage facility is not ideal for property values when it's in your backyard. So we are very passionate about this, and we really appreciate everyone's time tonight.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So, I declare the public hearing closed. And I wonder if any planning board members have any questions or concerns that they would like to express at this point in time.
I think we have a great list to develop, conditions that will accompany the CUP, and we'll need another meeting to discuss and go over those.
So, then I will call the meeting, the planning board meeting for the 14th of September to order. The secretary isn't here, and I did not get any minutes in email. So a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting would be in order. You sent it? Oh, okay. We sent it too early for me to notice it? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion about,
I make a motion that we approve them.
Well, that's right, I did read these. And seconded, any discussion? No. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, dealt with that. So, the item on the agenda is the Long Beach Marina. And I guess we have to write up conditions, we have to get some verbiage together on that and, email one of you guys.
Yes, either one of us if you could.
Okay, yep.
Well, you want us to come to the next meeting, is what you're saying?
Somebody would have to come, yeah, because we're not gonna do business, as I said, outside of this meeting, but if I write this up, I can certainly send you, it's a draft, it's not a final, and, you can at least be warned what's going on.
And that would be helpful, and we may want to suggest some edits, and, I've worked on a lot of these things, and may be able to find some wording that might help too. So, happy to go through that. It would be good to get a copy of what you guys were going through tonight, just so we have it for our records.
Sure.
If they could email it to us, or if you could email it to us, or
sure.
Whatever that paperwork is that you got from the neighbors. We went through.
Oh, that, yes.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a copy of that.
I'm trying to think, does anybody else have a copy of this?
I have one right here.
All right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So the next meeting is when?
So this is the second Thursday of the month, our next meeting is the fourth Thursday of the month.
Is there any questions of all your comments that you took down that you want input from us? It's too early to tell.
Yeah, I think we covered it,
Yeah, that's fine.
We are going to have another, public hearing on the 28th of September when you come up in front of us again. And it's just, what happens, we're going to be hearing from Robbins Lumber, so that's another large project. There it is.
I just suggested to look into the forklift.
Yes, good idea. That would be nice to have some sort of an answer about forklift. I have no idea. I don't like to ask for something that's unreasonable, but you guys can look into prices and find out what's reasonable, unreasonable, and about noise.
Yeah. So, Joe, I know you and Steve got together and looked over the CUP, and he was able to develop an assessment of and everything like that. Sam, have you gotten any specific recommendations from Steve as to needing Class B fire extinguishers that are foam fire extinguishers rating not less than 20-B:C and blah, blah, blah? You know, these are the specifics for, fire extinguishers for, fuel and solvent fires and things like that. Is he giving you anything specific like that?
He has not, but we do have those at the marina, out on the dock. We have a gas bathroom, so they have a leak, and, it's pretty busy. So we know a little bit about that, and we'll definitely get whatever we need, and probably a little more than what we need.
Okay, great. You will probably do what your insurance company tells you to do.
What about ours?
Anybody on the board have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate your input and your questions, and we're gonna try to be a good neighbor if we get this.
Do I have a card for one of you? I probably do, but,
I had emailed.
I needed to pick up the chair to get my pocketbook out.
I have one at home.
Just dance.
You couldn't help me, it was over discount time.
You may have a contact information for Josie in that application, okay, and you can use her.
She's the one that really knows what
She's the one that really knows.
Which is here.
Thanks for coming.
you're welcome. Thank all of you for coming.
How you doing?
You staying overnight?
Yeah, we're here.
They take care of it, you know?
How you doing?
How you doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate your input, and I want to continue that good dialogue.
More new business.
About players, and they want to be involved. Yeah, it's Priscilla's older, and it's her son, and his daughter, involved now. Great.
We have to leave, they have a meeting to do before time, we can go outside if you want.
Thanks for all your work.
I think what you have to worry about more than anything about the fork trucks isn't the sound they make, it's the beat that makes every time they back up.
We have to leave.
And it has a safety thing.
We have to go.
That's the worst thing about anything. So. They wanna go home.
So many people there that I met.
Yeah.
But
I lived with Joe.
Take care, friend.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm
doing good.
living along.
It looks good.
Thank you. We have to leave, because they have
Yeah.
another meeting.
Mom talked to us a month or two ago about.
Gotta get out the door, folks.
The difference between the paperwork and the actuality. Don't give one to Matt, he doesn't.
Go ahead.
He would be.
My sister.
Really? I worked for his brother-in-law, Matt, here. Yeah.
So I proposed to him that he buy some property from me, and I would buy some property from my neighbor, and we would do it together, so I wouldn't be in the backyard. maps, which are a little bit off, but that was pretty close to what was there. About over there is where the back of our property was. I wanted to build a garage back here. He didn't want to look at that. This one, there.
Could you have somebody on the inside?
He'd actually planted apple trees in here. He agreed to move the lot line down 100 feet there, and move this one down 100 feet, which will maintain my needed requirements on 113. And a piece about like that is what I actually bought from the neighbor here. And the instruction to this gentleman here was, you make it happen, you pay all whatever it costs, I'm fine. And you'll be happy, I'll be happy, everybody's happy. And that all closed out in about 2008. About a year and a half ago, my neighbor here wanted to refinance when the interest rates were low, and he was turned down by his mortgage company. The people doing the title search said, you haven't updated the subdivision ordinance. And I don't think any of us realized that we were in a subdivision at that point, until that point. But we are. And so, I've spent the last year and a half trying to get somebody to do a drawing. And when I was working with a lady who we foreclosed on at the town, she needed to get a mortgage to refinance her, take some money out of her property so she could pay the taxes. I managed to get the guy to come do this as well. Right. So that's what we have. I got drawings that have been done by the engineer. He did not go out and do any surveying. What he did was, he took the information that was off the original subdivision drawing, took the information that's on the deed, and just plotted it out. And so this is closer to what you actually have there.
Bob?
Yeah.
Is there any way you could, I know you know how to use a tape measure, and you know how to use a pencil. Is there any way you could draw in your buildings so that we know you've met setback requirements? I mean,
I can do that, yeah. I actually have permits that I filed here for every building that we put on the wall.
But I mean, they met the old setbacks. Do they meet the new setbacks?
They meet the old ones and the new ones. They're all
And the
the
new
same.
ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So everything that I've done on the property, and I've done quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because I put a big house here, I put a garage there.
Yeah.
I took a barn from this place and moved it over there. I took a shed that was too close to the road and put it back there. So, I've done a lot, but it's all done with permits.
Yep.
And
I don't doubt it, Bob.
And
I doubt it for a minute.
the thing I can't do is go back to this guy and say, please plot it on this.
Yeah.
But I can take a copy of it and put it on it for you.
We don't need it super accurate in terms of drawing, but just if you say, there's 15 feet between here and here.
I can do that. I can probably scale it up pretty good, because I got all the scale.
What's the goal here?
The goal is that the Registry of Deeds wants an updated subdivision drawing that shows the current boundaries.
So the goal is to have the planning board approve revisions to the subdivision.
Right, and, then once it gets in the Registry of Deeds, the people who are doing title searches will say, oh, I see that it's a tick the box thing actually, but, that's the way it is. And it probably would have got done the first time, but somebody advised the lawyer that it didn't need to be done. And you could see, I didn't bring them with me, but you could see it.
Probably Wes.
No, I don't know. Oh, here we are.
That was a cheap shot.
On the bottom of the deed, it says, this is an conveyance to an abutter.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And that's the way people used to, in fact, when I first came to the board a year and a half ago, that's what I was told. And you were chairman at the time.
When are you bringing this to us?
Anyway, you know, it doesn't hack it anymore. You
So-
might have hacked it here at the board, but it doesn't hack it with the title search.
So what we have to do is, this is a revision to the subdivision. And, I'm just trying to think of process here, Bob, because we've revised subdivisions before, and it's always a process of us trying to remember what we did the time before this. Do we have to advertise this and have a public hearing? Probably. I would say, you know, it's better to do it than not do it and find out we should have. So we have to advertise it, have a public hearing, and vote on it, and then it's done.
We need to look, Joe, at Article 9, revisions to approved plans. There's 9.1 is the procedure, 9.2 is the submissions, and 9.3 is the scope of the review. Looks like it's all on one page, 28.
Yeah, that's why we need to know, the board has to make a determination that the proposed revisions meet the standards of these regulations and the criteria of the statute, and that's why we need to know about the setbacks and where the buildings are. The revision plan showing
There's no additional lots, but there are dwelling units, additional dwelling units. So we go to the procedures for preliminary plan approval.
So we have to have a public hearing? Yeah. Okay.
Since there are new dwellings from the time that the original subdivision was approved.
So we can stipulate that the buildings you draw in do not have to be there, not a limit on the number of buildings if you want to do that. Because you probably want to continue to move buildings around.
Oh, you know me, I'm always doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to limit you there, but we want to, know where we are at this point.
As far as I know, I'm the only one who's actually done anything to buildings.
Yeah.
Neither of my neighbors have, well, I take that back. My neighbor has built a garage. I took his barn.
Yes.
He built a garage, but it's, pretty much the same spot.
So, I'm gonna ask you to kind of not work fast, because we've got these guys coming back at our next meeting, plus, we've got limited lumber going, so it's.
So, just to make sure that we understand what I need to do, is I have paid this guy his $1,500 to just, put this on his CAD machine and, draw it out. And he sold his company, and he's off doing something else now.
Yeah.
So on one of these copies, I can draw in great detail where all the buildings are.
That would be
And where
great.
the septics are, and so forth. I have no problem doing that. And it'll take me some time, and.
Take your time. Take your time. Thank you. I mean, I hate to ask you to do it, but it just seems to.
Yeah, and so the other question.
Page 28, Bob, Article 9.
Okay, yep.
Trying to tell you what you need to do.
What's the fee gonna be?
What?
What's the fee gonna be?
Oh boy. I would look for a motion to waive the fee. Oh, you guys don't want to waive the fee, then I'm looking for a motion to waive the fee. Are you moving to waive the fee, and you're seconding it? Okay. All happened long ago. You guys have done the best you could to obey the ordinance, and it's
Get
not
along
your
with each
fault.
other.
Not your fault. So that's what we can, the least we can do to help you keep up.
We don't have to hold a
So
public
if you don't
hearing.
need these, I'll take them back.
We don't have to hold a public hearing.
If the board decides to hold a public hearing, it doesn't say that we have to.
Okay, okay. Since there's no change on the face of the earth because of this, I would look for a motion not to have a public hearing.
I move that we do not have a public hearing on this.
Now, who is taking minutes for now?
You can take it from the YouTube.
Can you do it?
By next,
So, all we have to do is from me calling the meeting to order after the public hearing.
yes, I get that.
Okay, so it's very little. It's like half an hour's work.
We should just get AI to do minutes, that's what I do at work.
Okay,
Yeah, it helps me a lot with my work. I wanted to ask, I know you have scheduled a site walk for this Saturday, right?
yes.
You may want to reschedule that with the weather, Hurricane Lee.
I think probably down at the coast are gonna be big swells, and we might get some rain.
Wind gusts up to 30, 40. And the wind is rain. I'm not so worried about the rain, but, wind gusts.
The wind-
and
I started following this 2 days ago when we were gonna get 25 miles per hour, now we're down to 16.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm not, personally, I mean, I will, but how does the rest of the board feel?
And this is what the weather app says.
What does
So
it
you're gonna
say?
have gusts, what time in the morning?
9 o'clock.
So, somewhere around in here, you might have gusts up to 40 miles an hour. Sustained winds 15 or more. And I think that's the biggest issue right there, the wind.
Wind?
The rain is going to.
I think it's a little too early to call, and I was the weather observer in the Air Force there, and this is one of the most difficult things to forecast, is the direction of a hurricane.
Yeah.
The way I've been watching over the last couple of days, I think it's starting to slow down, fade, and I think it's gonna go on to sea. I don't think we're gonna get anything here.
You got the weather guy.
Okay, I'm with you, Mike. I'm with you, Mike.
Yeah, let's do it,
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm wearing a raincoat or something.
Yeah. There's no such thing as bad weather, only wrong clothes.
Bring some
I think only down east has something to worry about.
Yeah, on the coast, it's gonna be a little rough, but, we'll be all right here.
I'd like to see us have at least 3, possibly 4 people there, from the
Unfortunately, I will be
She's gonna
in
work.
Portland.
I'm gonna be there.
Okay, I'll be there, and who knows?
Huh?
I have to be. You know, if I couldn't get you or David or.
Well, I mean, I may be there, it all depends on what
Yeah,
happens with Ann, so.
I'll be there. I will be there. I have friends in Madison, New Hampshire, I wanted to go visit. Saturday morning, a group of us get together. Okay. Moving on.
We're not on the agenda, we just are here to observe more or less, given the thing, they're studying up, and they'd be interested in the license, we just wanted to be here, see what's going on. So we don't have to spend any time on this tonight, we can all go home.
Okay,
The good news, right?
Are you working on bringing
Yeah.
things forward? Okay.
Yeah, we've got the surveyor is working on getting, I think there actually might be a question we could ask about that. I think the surveyor to do the lot split is going to be a person that I believe, Jeremy's been one that's been the point of contact on it, but we need to get the lot split, we need to go get it confirmed by someone, and then we can do it as far as cutting the deed and everything. Is that correct, Baldwin? That's the engineer's understanding of general practice.
That's correct.
Okay. So we just wanted to confirm that.
So, yeah, so we have the plan printed out, so he's trying to contact you. I don't know if you've contacted him back. I haven't talked to him since he said that. But he said that he tried to call you and he left a message to talk to you, that's all, so.
Well, I haven't got it yet. There's a message here on the phone that might.
Okay.
I checked this morning, there wasn't anything on it.
There wasn't anything? Okay.
But not from him.
I'll let him know that you haven't gotten it if he didn't send it, so I'll have him call you again if he hasn't, so.
Or he could email it to me too, his plan, that would be.
Okay. Yep, no problem.
We're making headway on the rest of things, we should be back here shortly.
So, did you get the email from David Laurie, all that stuff?
That's what I was going to, it's kind of in squint print when it gets down.
I'm mixing something there, though.
So, we asked, no, this is the wrong one. We asked the town lawyer, we had a series of questions, and we got an answer. And I'm trying to find it on my phone, I'm not being.
Oh, no, don't worry.
No, I didn't, because I try to wait till a meeting, before I do it.
You're allowed to send things, nobody's commenting on it, but you can send things.
Let's see.
As long as we don't make any substantive decisions, or as long as we don't deliberate on it.
Right.
No problem.
Are you guys allowed to, like, send me his answers and, so we can, like, questions on the answers to review, or is that, town?
That's up to Joe, but.
Yeah, not.
We're allowed to do administrative things in between meetings, as long as we don't do any deliberation on topics.
Absolutely.
Like, Joe, I'll summarize what he said, there are 3 questions. And the one question had to do with the right of way, if that counted as being adjacent or within 50 feet of the, church.
The boundary.
Yeah, and in essence, he said no, that wasn't, the town lawyer said no, that wouldn't be considered part of the lot. So that wouldn't be an issue, okay?
We read it differently, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
We read it differently. I read that the land, the right-of-way, the right-of-way is considered part of the land it sits on.
Yes, so the land that it sits on is not part of the lot.
Yeah.
The right of way is part of that lot that it sits on,
Yes.
not part of the lot where the facility was going to be.
Not part of any other lot, just
Right.
part of, yeah.
So it won't count as being too close to the church. All right.
Okay, yes,
So that was not an issue.
right.
So you guys actually read it? You guys read it the same?
Yeah, just stated it differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other one had to do with the requirement to be a nonprofit, and he said even though the state does not require you to be a nonprofit, the town can, and therefore, unless we change the ordinance, that requirement will stay. The third one was the issue about which comes first, the chicken or the egg. In other words, we said you had to get a state approval first. Our ordinance says,
State approval first.
You say you can't get
State
state
approval
approval
without.
until we approve.
Right.
And, the lawyer said, that's a deadlock, and it can't be waived, it can't be solved by going to the appeals board. The only way that it can be solved is for either the town to change its ordinance, or you to go to court and get a court order.
So I thought that the line item, correct, was that we need authority to be able to, possess cannabis within the medical program. Correct? That was the line item that we're discussing?
The problem was the conflict between state law and
Right.
town ordinance, and our lawyer advises us that we have to enforce both.
Right, I believe that last time we were here, we read through everything, and there was as we had all read it originally, that was what we thought the conflict was, but there actually isn't a conflict, because your ordinance states that we need to have authority to be holding medical marijuana, which we had gotten.
Oh, okay,
So we've met that,
okay,
I believe.
great.
And I'm happy to send it and speak with David if he's willing, or send him my write-up and he can talk to you. I know he can't spend time unless you guys tell him to spend time. I don't wanna spend time unnecessarily.
Yeah.
'Cause I think,
So if you've got state permission, then you have met the town requirement.
It's the authorization, the applicant must demonstrate to the planning board their authorization to cultivate, process, store, and distribute medical cannabis pursuant to the main statute.
yeah, so
Okay,
we've met
great.
that.
Great, we're coming along.
Headway is being made.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you guys for taking a moment to talk about it, and,
Thanks for your patience.
uh,
I growl at people, but I do listen to them.
I
make the effort.
growled at us once. No, really, we're happy to work with you guys as much as we do, and we appreciate you guys' willingness to work with us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
All right.
Thank you. So I have one more thing. Mostly was done.
What are your thoughts on this nonprofit issue that we can't get around?
Oh, we've already filed people to start a nonprofit.
I got a letter from
We'll have, there will be.
David Blaze about building on his property from Cumberland.
Yeah, we just decided it's not.
Saco River Carter Commission.
It's easier to figure out the administrative side of the thing.
That he put down that the building was going to be at 7 Firefly Lane, and that was
I
an
wrote a
illegal
letter to
address.
her, and I haven't heard anything back yet. I actually wrote.
So you
The
reached out?
planning board had told him
We're just
that
gonna talk to
he couldn't use Firefly.
I only got
Because you live.
She said, well, is there access to his property? They said, yes, we have a sidewalk, we saw the road, it has to be built, but it's there. And I said, I'm totally opposed, as chairman of the planning board, I'm totally opposed to this. Anything happening there, and as long as he's using an illegal address.
Yet, I can't seem to see who.
Makes sense to me. I would agree with that 100%.
All right.
So I may need his paperwork to take with me to their meeting, or maybe you would come with me.
I'm happy to go with you. We don't have a whole lot of paperwork.
No, it's okay.
Your motion to adjourn, Joe?
He has, gotten the different permits that he needs.
He what?
He had asked last fall for an inspection of the plumbing, and he didn't have any plumbing permits taken out.
So that would be something else we could talk about for the.
We would have to pull.
Saco River Carter Commission.
I'm happy to go with you for that.
Great. Thank you.
Just let me know when we'll go.
Yep, I think.
And the marijuana thing.
The marijuana. You were on the, sidewalk, were you?
I was.
I wrote it down, but of course I got too many things in here to pick out where it is.
We might ask the fellow who was just here to see proof that he has that.
Oh, we will definitely ask for proof. Yes, definitely. You will notice that I warned, Sam that we would need proof that he has a place to dispose of his chemicals. And that's, and that you will provide that at any time. Because 5 years from now, we may wanna know that he's still got the ability to get rid of chemicals.
Right.
As the law changes, and it's going to.
Right, well, he said he was in compliance, well, he didn't bring us proof that he's in
Oh,
compliance.
this guy,
Right, he should have that certificate from the state.
before he gets a conditional use permit?
Before you even hear it, you're supposed to have that.
Oh, okay, before we hear him, okay. I will do that.
He
Okay.
says he has it, we just need to see a copy, or I would recommend that he does.
Sounds good to me. Okay. And what was this?
Oh, that's from the solar,
From Walden.
saying they made a substantial start, and we
Did
were.
you get one? Substantial
Yes.
start, that driveway is a
We were-
substantial start?
We were talking about that.
To hear you scream, yeah.
And, it looks like there was barely room to turn my car around there by backing into it, and that's the start. I wouldn't really call that a start, but that's up to how you folks wanna look at that. They're taking that as we've begun construction, now we're in compliance. I don't know if you would agree with that or not. I think Matt and I have some questions when we were down there. I thought, cause he was taking some reflectors on the sign where somebody stole the sign, at the top of it, but they did leave the nut and the bolt there, so it's a little easier for the road crew to put it back up. if they get another
The
one.
next day, Chris had a new sign up for us. They're gonna buy a lock, are we either gonna lock it on there or
I think you buy one at a dozen, so, it turns out that the ones that are on Senator Black Road and close to nearby are the ones that are getting, lifted.
Why?
Chris thinks
Any
that
sense
the
of what?
person who does it
The collector.
lives
A collector.
nearby. Yes, a teenage collector.
Senator Black Road, Pierce Place.
Yeah.
Rocky Dunn Road, Deacons Road. Hannaford, they closed. I don't know, there might have been another one there, I think there's one.
Yeah, on your way between Bolden and Cornish.
Yeah, I didn't see Chase Road, but ours is gonna be gone.
Centered on leaving Pierce Place to go over that way.
Second time, he's got two of them now.
He's only displaying one.
Yeah, I think he's displaying one and has one to sell or something.
To catch Hannaford before they close.
Okay, bye.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Right.